They got the pizza guy. They got my tires. You assholes! Here for Blood is the Screenbox original from director Daniel Turris, who also produced the movie. This was written by James Roberts in his feature writing credit according to IMDb, and check out the respective IMDb pages for the full listens of their work. And it stars Sean Roberts as Tom the Piper's son. Actually not, he's a professional wrestler on the Canadian independent wrestling scene, and we even see a scene early on, him wrestling against Tyson Dux. That is a name that many deep-diving professional wrestling fans will recognize, and we see some pretty damn good, well-shot footage of a Canadian independent wrestling show. I've said Canadian independent wrestling so many goddamn times. Has it lost all meaning? No. You need to support your local independent wrestling scene. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, where you've been, as long as you love me. That's right, Backstreet Boys, better than NSYNC, fight me in the comments. But back to Here for Blood. Basically, after we see Sean Roberts as Tom competing at this show and not receiving the best payoff, shall we say, independent wrestling is tough. Professional wrestling in general is tough. A lot of blood, sweat, tears, broken bones, and whole lot of travel hours, whole lot of mileage, whole lot of kilometers, because this is taking place in Canada, as the aforementioned Canadian independent wrestling talk show told you. He also has a very loving, significant other, Phoebe, played by Joel Farrow. Hopefully not related to Mia Farrow. I just want to say that right there. And they are working hard to build a better life together. And Tom, even though he is working hard as an independent wrestler, Phoebe is trying to graduate from college. And she has exams coming up. And she has a babysitting job. And, babysitting for a young girl named Grace, where she really likes her. And, Grace is a great kid. But god damn it, she took on this job and she's got these exams. So Tom, will you babysit for me? I've hemmed your trunks and I've done all this great stuff for you, so please take this job. Fine, he'll do it. And everything seems to be going great. And then some criminals show up and things get really, really ridiculous and weird and everything. And that's basically the plot right there without getting into too many spoilers. If you've seen the poster, it basically just has Tom holding an axe and there's a lot of blood. In a movie called Here for Blood? Wow, it's just weird. So basically, the movie is a love letter to 70s and 80s schlock, slasher, goofiness. It obviously is low budget, and that's not a knock. That actually works in its favor here, because they are able to use some pretty good practical effects, some CGI effects that are silly, but actually work in this environment. And the best part about it is, it doesn't take itself so fucking seriously. It's dripping with atmosphere and fun and fancy free nature, goofiness about it. I mean, I don't really know how else to describe it. I do have a couple complaints before I really dive into any specifics and get into spoilers in a little bit. I think that sometimes the comedy doesn't always hit, and when it doesn't, it lands with a thud, and that's not the fault of the actors, just sometimes you can only keep the pace up so much. But the body horror effects are pretty goddamn good. Shout out to the effects team for that. And you could tell that the director and writer and the crew had a vision, and they did what they could to implement it. And yeah, it's ridiculous, and it also goes maybe 10 to 15 minutes too long. I think there are a few things they could have shaved off. That's where I don't feel it drags, I just feel it's stretched out a little bit too much for the material they had. But as a horror fan, considering that I saw this poster and was like, that kind of looks delightfully, it actually turned out to be pretty fun. Not going to win any awards, but is certainly going to be something that is well above a lot of independent horror and even a lot of mainstream horror that I've seen, because they actually appreciated the genre and tried to honor the genre while just having fun and bringing their vision to life. Whatever it was, they did a pretty damn good job here. For what it's worth, from me, just a horror movie fan. I recommend you guys check this out. I did order it on Amazon, rented it on Amazon for about $7 to $8, depending on your tax bracket and depending on, what the taxes are in your state, it, will decide how much you're actually going to spend. But I've enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. If you have a Screenbox account, check this out. It is worth checking out. I don't have that because I've subscribed to a number of streaming services already, some of which I don't use more than once a month. That being said, it's fun overall. I do have to shout one particular person before I get into the spoilers. Tara Spencer Nairn. I think that's how you pronounce it. She plays the mother of Grace. God damn it, she is beautiful. She is absolutely beautiful. And everybody else seems to be having quite a bit of fun here. I just still found it funny. It's like Tyson Dux. Like, God, I remember that name. Jeez, that's pretty goddamn cool. And you had some other guys that played the criminals that I swear were professional wrestlers of some variety. I mean, I'm sure I wouldn't know their names, but you know what? It looked like everybody got to have a good time making this movie, and it was fun. It was overall pretty fun, and sometimes that's all you need to make a pretty good horror comedy. Getting into the spoilers right now, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So, yeah, the movie doesn't take itself so fucking seriously. One girl's out, jogging. Her roommate gets killed in the shower, whatever. That's why you don't set the water too goddamn hot, or otherwise it will, stop the world and melt with you. Guy had a Vampiro-style knockoff face paint mask thing, kind of, sort of. Hopefully without the flatulence on commentary. Anybody that's a Vampiro fan knows what I'm talking about. I love Vampiro, but come on. The high school or the college students look like they should, probably have jobs and probably not be in college. But then you think, no college students look like that. When I was in college, that's because they're all played by people that are a little bit older in college, but whatever, horror comedy doesn't matter. I did note that this is so goddamn Canadian, and that's not knocking. You can just tell, as far as the setting and everything, that this screams Canadian horror. And you know what? Canadians actually know how to do pretty good horror. It's a lot of isolation up there once you get past pretty much Vancouver. Once you get past like Vancouver, British Columbia, and you go straight across like that, I know there are cities north, and geographically Canada's a pretty goddamn big country, but whew boy. Nevertheless, after we see the independent wrestling scene, which I have to say, shout out to the camera people there, shout out to, the people framing it and working it. That was better filmed than some, mainstream movies I've seen, that have covered any wrestling matches or covered any aspects of wrestling. That was better shot than most. So clearly the people running this are professional wrestling fans and understood, or consulted people that did some good stuff. And I imagine Tyson Dux probably had something to do with this. Money is tough. The payoff isn't all that great. I think it was like $20. Being an independent wrestler would be very difficult. I've been to multiple indie shows, and I just say that I know times are tough. But guys, when you go to independent wrestling shows, try to make sure that you give a little bit extra when they're, for pictures, for shirts, whatever. I try to give at least an extra $10 to $15 if I can. Which I know doesn't seem like much, but they're the ones taking bumps out there. It's just money to me. Anyway, I got reminded of that Simpsons episode where the big guy was in the small car that Nelson laughed at when Sean Roberts, who massive man here, massively large man. It's just so funny to think this guy had played Albert Wesker in the last 2 Resident Evil movies. I'm not knocking. I'm happy for people to get work. It's just, I was like, oh God, that's where I've seen him. Need to go back and retro-view those at some point. So, yeah, he agrees to take the job, the babysitting job. You don't often see men babysitting. No, you don't. Grace is playing video games. I don't know if that was a PS3 or PS4 controller. Probably PS4. The bad guys do approach. By the way, the girl in the shower got killed. The jogging girl got killed. And the killers just end up in the house. And how do they end up in the goddamn house? Well, they end up in the attic. How do they end up in the attic? How did they get there? My God, what have I done? Grace saw her dad die in the hospital, so this guy Gil showed up, and now you can name your favorite Gil lines from The Simpsons in the comments. And I wrote down, I bet Phoebe is in on this, and then I realized that was a misnomer. That was a red herring. With a heading! That was actually the parents that were in on it. A guy tries to attack Tom, a crazy guy with crazy hair, and he, it's kind of funny. He throws hot tea water in his face, and then presses his face on the goddamn element, meaning the element of surprise is upon him. I'm sorry, I'm really trying here. One of the other guys says, we don't need you, we need the child. This is weird, though, because these guys are taking a beating, and they keep on getting back up, so you have to wonder what the hell's going on. Tom does get stabbed in the foot, but shrugs that off. I don't really think he I don't really think he sells the foot injury after a bit. He forgot his phone downstairs. The guy that got the element of surprise put upon him texts Phoebe. Phoebe's about to show up with her friends that she was there in the early scene with. The pizza guy got killed. That was kind of funny. Good death scene there. They slashed the tires. And then I find it really, really hilarious that, that this movie just has copious amounts of blood spilling at some points, where you have to think that this had to have been someone's house in the production. This had to have been. There's no way. So then the nerdy guy gets killed in a funny way to me. I mean, I'm not knocking the actual guy. I'm just saying the character. I think his name was Mike. Don't take your phone with you or anything. The phone does get Phoebe's phone gets taken, but Christine, the blonde, she had her phone in the car. You always take your phone with you, kiddos. You never know when you're going to be attacked by Canadian cultish criminals. Yeah, it's a cult. It's a cult, and basically, Grace is part of this whole goddamn thing. They're glowing devil eyes because, there's this cult guy in this cult guy in this barn. There's this weird gate in this barn. There's this shrine up in the goddamn attic as opposed to down here in the attic. And why is it there? Why is there a weird head there? What the hell's going on? So basically what ends up happening from here is they just it's dumb in a stupidly funny way. In that's dumb in a stupid way would have been redundant, but in a stupidly funny way, because it's just meant to be fun. It's just meant to be enjoyable. And while again there are pitfalls, the Mayan adventure, they should make a movie about that. Be better than Indy 5. At least you can tell there was a breezy nature about it. Mike comes back as a zombie, ends up killing Christine. He's a very talkative zombie. He calls Tom a fake wrestler. You never call a wrestler fake. You never do that. You can say stuff's predetermined. You can say, okay, that probably didn't work out all that great, but trust me, as somebody that has watched wrestling for 39 years. Well, no, 40 years actually now. 40 years. Coming up on 40 years, folks. I'm coming up on 40. Yeah, I'm really goddamn old at this point. Anyway, nevertheless, what this basically comes down to is the parents are doing this to ascend to paradise. Why? Why the hell not? I think this is where it dragged a little bit, though, because some of the stuff with the parents sort of worked and some of it kind of didn't. Just kind of... I'm going to feed you to the head is what the Vampiro type mask guy ended up saying, or one of the guys ended up saying. He basically ends up getting fed to this head. This head that's almost like a puppet-like thing. It's kind of funny. It's like, feed me, feed me. That got a little bit irritating, because if it's said a little bit too much, but again, comedy. So, he gets fed to the head. He gets chomped on. Well, his hair does. Grace decides to help out and stand up and do all this. She had stabbed Gil at one point, and now the cult leader is like, hey, we need to go get the sacrifice. Phoebe's tied up in the barn. They bring the head with them. They being Tom and Grace. Gil and Barb basically they somehow need the head and need everything else to complete this, but then that's thrown out the goddamn window. We get more fighting. Tom has been stabbed in the void. He's been stabbed in the gut, but he cauterizes the wound in his gut, for his stomach, not for his foot, but his foot was tied up. The creature, not the creature effects, but the demon effects are a little bit silly, but a little bit fun. And the head basically gets chopped in half, and the head was powderized. I mean, literally, the powder was coming out of the head. But the head ended up being alive. We get this fight between between Sean Roberts and another big beefy guy in a mask that was straight out of Twisted Metal. And then the head is thrown by Grace, or put by Grace on the guy's neck, and then the head feasts. Why does the head need to feast? Apparently, it was the first ever head of this cult. This cult that has this weird door that's in this barn. God, there was some movie that I think had the guy from Zombie Nightmare that was in like a barn. And it was really weird. I don't remember the name of that goddamn thing. It was Zombie Nightmare. Nah, I don't remember. Let me know in the comments. But the demon door opens, and this black cult leader, the Jackal, gets shoved in there. And he's sacrificed. Except he's not. Then he comes back out and he throws Gil in there because Gil's pissed him off. And everything's going great. And then Grace runs into the car and runs the Jackal back in there. And that the second time he's dead. And then they take the mother. They're going to take her to the authorities. Whoever Dudley Do-Right motherfucker is up there. I'm sorry. They got good police up there in Canada, from my understanding. And the guy that had the, grill on his face, or, the element of surprise, also got his fingers cut off at one point. He has the head, and now maybe we're getting a sequel. Here for Blood 2, Electric Outback Boogaloo, I don't really know. B+ for entertainment. I mean, the movie overall probably should get like a C+ or a B- because it's ridiculous. But you know what? I'm going B+ for entertainment because I had great fun with this goddamn thing. So I recommend you guys check it out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I do want to say also, I appreciated this one exchange between Tom and Phoebe where they were killing people and beating them in the head with stuff, going full-on cleaver. That was a really good scene. That was before the parents showed up. That was some pretty good stuff. Anyway, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.